Welcome back to American Warrior Radio, right here on the Talk to Me station, AM 1300 WMEL. Folks, we are blessed today on American Warrior Radio. If you listen to the first half, we've got an exciting discussion going on with two folks that are eminently qualified to brief you on all this. And I know you've checked out past episodes of American Warrior Radio and found this information interesting and enlightening. We have with us Dr. Scott Fairchild and Dr. Davis from Baytree Behavioral Health. We want to, again, thank you both for spending some time with us. It's a serious issue, and it's one that's probably going to continue to steamroll. We're going to see even larger and larger numbers of our veterans complain of the symptoms we're talking about regarding post-traumatic stress disorder. But before we get into the alternative treatment stuff that I really want to focus on, because that's what we hit upon in AVEP Project's PR&R, Project Recuperation and Reintegration Retreats, talk a little bit about the impact this disorder, what are they calling it? The unseen wounds of war, Glenn?
Yeah.
Okay. Talk a little bit about how it impacts the family members as well, because I know it's very detrimental.
Well, the invisible wounds of war really do have their
That's the word, invisible
impact.
wounds of war.
They really do have their impact on the service member and the family members as well. When that service member is in country and their brain is changed in ways that are very difficult to change back. While they're over there, we have been able to show through our quantitative EEGs that their brain waves change.
Okay, wait a minute, back up. What's a quantitative EEG?
It's when we measure the actual brain waves, when we look at the various waves in the brain, delta, theta, alpha, and beta. We see in Vietnam veterans and in Iraq and Afghanistan veterans and veterans of any trauma, we see an increase in beta waves. And our beta waves are our learning waves. In individuals who actually have learning disabilities, they have very low beta. But in our veterans who have been exposed to combat, they actually have very high beta. They have learned too well. And they've learned generally in a situation where they have to survive. So they've learned that, it's etched into their brain, and once it's etched into their brain, it's so hard to undo it. So when they come back and they're with their family members and there's a surprise or a loud noise, or a spouse may come in from the other room and shock them or startle them or surprise them, they go immediately into that survival mode. So it's so difficult to unlearn what has been learned in a combat environment, and it has ramifications. We often say that anyone within grenade range gets hit or gets hurt. And so say, for example, if a young spouse comes...
Can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Folks, Dr. Fairchild spent his entire career before he started Baytree Behavioral Health you retired as a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army, treating these very folks with these issues. So you've been at this a long time, Doc.
Yes, sir. It's been quite a while. I won't admit how long.
You don't have to.
But actually, the family members may want to wake up a service member when he or she is having a nightmare. I've actually had family members say, I wake him up with a broomstick. Because getting too close can be hazardous or dangerous to your health. We also know that many of our couples actually sleep in separate rooms. In fact, just yesterday, I had a young Iraq War veteran tell me that he woke up and he had already punched his fiancée 3 times in the face. And he feels horrible about it.
Of course.
And it's just one of those things that happens after
Startle
exposure.
response? What's
Absolutely.
The clinical term there?
Hypervigilance and an exaggerated startle response. Absolutely.
There are certain times that are particularly problematic for our veterans. I had a very loving, responsible, devoted couple come to my office and just walk in at the VA. She had big dark glasses on, and she was very, very cowed. He obviously had been crying for a long time. I always ask my veterans just to come in when they have a crisis. Don't worry about having an appointment. And they were ushered into my office very quickly, and this was right after 4th of July. They were in the car together. He had never been physically aggressive against her, but some of those fireworks went off, and all of a sudden he just started hitting, and she could not get out of the car. And so she showed me, she took off her dark glasses, her face was bruised and swollen, and her entire body was bruised and beaten because he was, as she was showing me this, he was so remorseful and so embarrassed. And he said, I told her I was going to call and turn myself in. And she said, no, this is not him. We
This
knew.
is the disorder.
I don't want to file charges. I just want us to get some help. And so this is not atypical. If we can anticipate that there will be loud fireworks, 4th of July, New Year's, then we can pre-medicate and educate our veterans so that they can use an alpha stim or they can use some medication to be able to tolerate that difficult period of time. And it's no more than a rough patch in the year. It doesn't destroy their life, and it certainly doesn't jeopardize their safety or harm the relationship.
And you mentioned something, and that's key, Glenn, and we remind everybody at the close of American Warrior Radio about the crisis line, reaching out for help.
Exactly, and I'm hearing, and I think and I hope everybody else out there is hearing, this isn't just a problem with the veteran, it's a family issue. And certainly family members that are affected by this, just like the family members of maybe an alcoholic, need to get involved with treatment.
And it goes even beyond that, pardon me, in that it is a societal problem, because as they begin, I know not acting out, but as they exhibit the behaviors that are happening concomitant with the disorder, society's going to be getting the brunt of it, whether it's being aggressive towards somebody they meet on the street or in the store or something. That's why we have a veterans treatment court, to address those situations on a higher level than just the regular court, because of the fact they have this disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder. So it really does permeate society, even beyond the family.
Well, and it affects some vets in a very negative way. Some of them are coming back and have a great deal of training and a great desire to get back into the workforce. But because the public has heard about PTSD and how unpredictable they are, then employers are reluctant and afraid to hire a vet. And that's a double tragedy. How can a person get back on their feet and regain their self-respect and their confidence if they can't get a job?
And Doc, you've got experience with that with the patients that you see.
Oh, we see it so often. You know, the explosiveness, the frustration. And, you know, shortly after the incident, the second incident at Fort Hood, Florida Today did an article on that topic. You know, how we don't want to prejudge all veterans based on what may have happened with one or two veterans. We don't want to, you know, nowadays in our society, if we hear the acronym PTSD, people kind of want to equate that with ticking time bomb. And it is so important to realize that so many of our veterans who have benefited from treatment, who can have control over the impulsiveness, can continue to do well. And our employers should be proud to be able to hire a veteran who can contribute immeasurably to the workforce. It was very interesting to hear one Marine veteran who said, you know, when I come back, he said, they want to take me out to the ball game, they want to put me up on the screen and videotape me, and he said they want to give me that Jumbotron moment. And he said, you know, I'm not saying I don't appreciate that Jumbotron moment. He said, but you know what? You have trusted me to defend your country. You have trusted me to be out there and use my skills to put them online to defend your country. When I come home, I just want to be able to be welcomed, to be integrated and employ those skills to continue to go on serving you in your community. And he said, that's so much more important for me than the Jumbotron moment.
That's a good point. I know the general public wants to recognize, and this again is a sea change from the way things were just decades ago regarding the Vietnam folks coming back, and my generation of vets are lost and forgotten, and maybe we should be, but the idea is these guys and gals that are coming back as folks. Glenn, we've talked about this. I don't care if you're a frontline infantryman or whether you're a truck driver. The gals that are driving trucks and supply and what have you, they go out there, they carry rifles, things happen to them, shells go off, all this jazz. So it doesn't just affect male vets, but even female vets, whether they've been combat designated through some award or citation, they're over there and experience the same type of stressors that lead to this.
Well, it's like when we talked to the two-star general that was in Iraq. If you're in theater, you're in theater. I mean, you're at risk, and you're anxious, and you're worried about your health, and you're worried about your life. No matter, if you're up there in a bayonet fight or you're back there sitting at a desk.
There are a lot of threatening jobs in the military, of course. Just this morning, I saw an individual who worked as a body handler. I guess the official name is mortuary affairs. She went through an entire career, whether working at Dover or working at other labs, and that can be extremely overwhelming. In fact, they have...
It would be for me.
Yeah, they have special programs, and when I hear things like, you can end up finding, from the blast, you can end up finding a wedding ring in the midst of the liver, or you can end up finding a wallet embedded in a shoulder. That gets a little bit too intense. And so I really appreciate those who silently serve in occupations like that, necessary to provide our deceased veterans with dignity and with a dignified service. That is so important as well, and we know a number of those, one of whom has written a book called Faces of Iraq, and he talks about the faces.
We've had him on the program.
Absolutely, Michael.
So does the DoD recognize the need to provide any level of debrief or what kind of treatment for the folks that are involved in that career field or similar career fields where they're going to be exposed to continual stuff that's outside the realm of normal human experience?
It is important to address, and I know they've got some exercise programs, some relaxation programs, but we would like to see more deprocessing.
Deprocessing.
Absolutely, very much using EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Great segue, because let's get into this. This is what AVET Project and PRNR, our Project Recuperation and Reintegration Retreats, really want to focus on, and that's alternative therapies to treat these guys and gals that suffer from this this unseen or invisible wound of war. That's really what the moniker is now. We have with us Dr. Scott Fairchild and Dr. Georgia Davis from Baytree Behavioral Health. Dr. Davis, can you speak about that for a moment, what the alternative treatments might be?
Well, I would like to tell people that are listening out there and have perhaps been to the VA or to other seeking treatment and been, I guess there's no other word, but subjected to the retelling of a story over and over again in the name of desensitization. Unfortunately,
I'm guessing you don't like that method.
this does more harm than good. It re-traumatizes the veteran, particularly if the veteran is a female and has been a victim of military sexual trauma.
MST.
And there are women and men that have suffered military sexual trauma, but the retelling of this is absolutely traumatic, and I'm sorry, I think in most cases, unless someone is very, very skilled and can tell the exact timing of this and knows how to deal with the aftermath, that there are ways that are much kinder and more effective and more respectful of the veteran's trauma. And the EMDR and the methods used at Baytree with alpha stim to lower the overreactivity of the central nervous system will make that experience a whole lot less uncomfortable. And so then it can be a lot more productive if it's approached in that manner.
Can we talk a little bit more details about this EMDR and what that's about?
Sure, with eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, I realize it's a mouthful, but it's a process that's been developed many, many years ago, about 15 years ago, discovered by Francine Shapiro. And I became involved with it in about the third iteration of classes that were trained. And I recall back in San Diego, the conference included about 100 therapists who did EMDR. Now there are 132,000 EMDR therapists, and so the proof is likely in the pudding. In addition to that, there are also quite a number of individuals who actually supervise it and practice it. So it's a technique by which the eyes move, and it changes things. It addresses both items in the left brain and in the right brain. It aims at the emotion, it releases the emotion connected to the event, and it makes a huge difference. Many people will walk out saying that, I just feel emotionally drained, I feel tired, I feel as though I have had a nightmare in the waking state, but I feel relieved. I feel relieved from the pressure. I feel relieved from the emotion. So it is a process. If there's something you think about more than 3 times and you think about it in a negative way, I recommend that you get the EMDR treatment. It's very measurable. We can see the changes in the brain through SPECT imaging after EMDR. It's a measurable type of therapy and an intervention. And as I agree with Dr. Davis on the prolonged exposure therapy, we're so new into that, and we've grabbed it because the National Institute of Mental Health and VA find it to be productive, but you have to be highly trained to do it. And I have actually worked with a young female who had been assaulted and had to retell her story over and over again. And they forced her to go to a morning session of 2.5 hours. When she came back for lunch, she just couldn't tolerate it. She asked to go home for lunch. Fortunately, her husband was home, and he heard the chair tip over when she tried to hang herself. So we have to quit killing our veterans with that type of therapy.
I think that's well said. I mean, honest to goodness, we know there are obvious things that need to change within the VA and the delivery of healthcare services, but I have in my hands right now a survey from 2011 of 141 VA facilities regarding complementary and alternative medicine. They label it CAM, complementary and alternative medicine. Not anywhere in here I see meditation, yoga, some other stuff. Nothing that I'm not saying those things aren't effective, but I don't see EMDR. I don't see alpha stim, and these treatments have been around for some time.
Well, they have.
And they're effective.
They have, and actually they were pronounced and used in the VA initially, and I'm not sure why they disappeared. Dr. Howard Lipke, who runs the VA in Chicago, is an EMDR trainer. He taught me how to do EMDR, and he came down to my Fort Polk, Louisiana clinic and taught all of us. We taught our staff together. So it is there, and it can be utilized, and it should be utilized because it's effective, and it makes a difference, and it's measurable, and there's so many success stories.
I can tell you one, and that is when my wife and I, Kim, our producer, lost our daughter. She was in a bad state, and we still are. It'll be a process of recovering from that loss for the rest of our lives, but she was in desperate need, and you put her through EMDR, Dr. Fairchild, and it is amazing. It's amazing. That's coming first-hand knowledge. This stuff works. Why on earth, and this is a rhetorical question really, Glenn, why on earth would the VA not make this stuff available to our vets?
Well, I can give you an opinion, and it's based on some experience, not necessarily in the clinic, but with the people that go to the clinic and retell me what went on, and that's that. This is just me, of course. Anything we say is just us, but I think that the VA is more concerned about productivity and how many clients you can see per X amount of time than they are the results and the use of things that may take a little longer but are much more effective. That's my thoughts.
And Dr. Davis, you're nodding your head.
Yes, I unfortunately have been witness to that, and it is possible that the corruption that has been coming to light lately is very widespread. I know that some staff members in the VA can write down notes on veterans that have not been seen, and they have not been seen for like 2 years. And yet they get paid for that, and then we hear about veterans that are waiting to be seen for 6-7 months. And those kinds of things should come to light. We can invest the money into treatments that can be utilized almost 24/7. Let me give you an example. Our vets don't sleep anyway. We can run them through 24/7, but these are not utilized, and they're not used up. Let's take the alpha stim. The alpha stim,
which is a device.
You don't even need a person. Once you and one vet can teach another vet how to do that, and they have. In fact, we can tell a story of something that happened just to us last week of a vet that was having a panic attack in my office, and I said to him, not having known about the alpha stim beforehand, this was evolving, I said to him, don't worry, you're having a panic attack. We have a pharmacy right next door. I'm going to call in some medication, and in 20 minutes, we're going to get this under control. Then I called Dr. Fairchild, who plugged him into the Alpha Stim, and by the time we got the medication to the office, the guy says, I don't believe this. This is great. By the way, I had taken his blood pressure, and his blood pressure was very, very high. I forget what it was, but you know, you were there, and then I took the blood pressure in the office after the Alpha Stim. That made me a believer on the spot.
Exactly, and that's pretty impressive, and that's not anecdotal. That happened, folks.
That happened.
And I will just share that the Alpha Stim, the reports we have from the guys and gals that have used them on the retreat and otherwise, is remarkable. They make comments like, you know, we've never slept that well, and it's just a different way, and we're running out of time. There's never enough time here, but I wanted to share again, we've been talking with Dr. Scott Fairchild and Dr. Georgia Davis. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. Tell us a little bit about Baytree Behavioral Health. We got like 30 seconds. Where can they contact you? What can they do?
You can get in touch with us at 321-253-8887. We're at 1370 Bedford Drive. And we utilize...
Website?
We're at BaytreeBehavioralHealth.com.
BaytreeBehavioralHealth.com. Dr. Fairchild, you've done an enormous help to our veterans. Dr. Davis, I'm glad you're here, and you're going to continue. Skype sessions.
Yeah, we actually also do some Skype sessions with folks around the country as well. But yeah, the Alpha Stim has been proven to be helpful against medication. I mean, it works for anxiety. It's blown away Xanax and Ativan. It works for depression. It's blown away Zoloft and Wellbutrin. And it works for insomnia, blowing away some of the sleep medications too. So it's so important to use something natural.
Doctors, we're out of time. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us this wonderful Saturday. Glenn, as always, we've got to get this message out there.
Yeah, the Veterans Crisis Line for veterans in need or family members who want to call on behalf of veterans, 1-800-273-8255. For veterans, press 1. And as always, don't forget, thank a vet.